Welcome to the podcast of the impossible. I'm Peter Wood, and I've been collaborating with my two guests today for many years, so I figured why not gather around some microphones with them and see what happens. It's Joel DeWyer and Willard.
I'm Willard.
You sure are. Look at that.
Peter, I want to ask you, why a museum? Why do you want to start something that you have to go to every day? You've got the perfect life.
It's pretty good.
Like you book a gig, you go to a gig, and you don't have. I mean, I guess except maybe to get your daughter on the bus.
You
don't have to be up at any certain time.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I am working on the magic business during the day, but that kind of, is on my own hours and flexible. Yeah.
But this museum will have a start time and a stop time, and employees presumably eventually. I
mean, I'll tell you
what's the motivation?
The dream of having your own venue, I think, is something that a lot of performers share, and it has definitely been a dream. I mean, if you want to really psychoanalyze this all the way back to
and I do.
I had a stage in my parents' basement with curtains and lighting and a sound system.
Insert photo.
Yep. And maybe not
because you have it.
I'm sure that's
only for Patreon subscribers.
That's
only
good.
for top tier Patreon subscribers.
There you go. I should. And then we moved to the other side of the basement for a larger, staging area, and then eventually built a stage in the backyard that had ductwork with fog jets and flash pots built into the floor and a trap door.
This explains so much of who you are today.
Yeah, right.
What was the age of this?
So the what I called the final stage.
Not sure.
That's what that would have been like late middle school into high school.
The final
like learning about how to do electrical wire. Like there was a giant switch panel.
Yeah, that's when I learned.
Sure.
Late middle school is when I started messing around with electric panels.
Yeah. and not just explosives in the floor. Sure. Yeah.
That was even earlier.
So the idea, and like this is literally, my parents' backyard. And so like I would put on some shows there, but it was all very obviously, by invitation only, like not open to the public kind of a thing. But just the idea that I have this installed space where I can, have the right lighting, the right sound, the right, all that stuff, and then can set up a bunch of cool, special effects or things that I wouldn't be able to do. I have, early in Willard and Wood, I brought a lot more stuff to the show. Like I have some cool looking set pieces that just look like a stack of crates, right? And they have like some subtle lighting effects in them, and it's cool eye candy. I eventually stopped bringing it because I was getting lazy. I just didn't feel like
fitter.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I didn't feel like lugging it, and what it was doing to the show was not worth what it was doing to my back,
The extra time and the production value, I don't think people needed. It wasn't necessary to justify the ticket price.
But
it looked good. It was fun. Yeah.
But it was also just one little and so like for like all this stuff behind us here, like I could bring a crate of this stuff to any hotel ballroom, and I could set up some of it on a little 8-foot table with a black tablecloth on it, and it'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. But I think to some degree you kind of want to be overwhelmed by that sort of, there needs to be, it needs to be more of an immersive space than that, not just like a little display in the corner of a ballroom, the 9 to 5 thing, is definitely, that was anytime before I made this announcement, before I decided, okay, I'm going to do this, like whenever I would start to get cold feet about it, it usually had to do with that sort of middle range where I've got something open, but it's not quite successful enough where I can hire somebody to run the front desk. It'll always be cheaper for me to run the front desk as opposed to hiring somebody, and so that's. I don't, the plan is not to chain myself to a building for the rest of my life, because we have friends who have done that, right? Who can never get out on a vacation because the business that they've found themselves in, whether it's successful or not, they haven't created a way for them to be able to leave for a week unless or else everything falls apart, So that's definitely been top of mind with this whole plan of like, how can I, make it so that I will be able to sort of have that. I don't want to say the exit strategy because I'm still be heavily involved, but I want to be able to go on vacation,
of course,
and have the space still make money,
self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Well, so, like any good business plan, you do a lot of research, to try to understand sort of, what gap or need you're trying to fill in the market. I know you've spoken to a lot of, experts, who have some stake or insight into what you're trying to do. So
Sure.
Talk a little bit about what you've learned, or like what kind of research you've done into what gap you're really filling, and why you believe that this is a viable project.
Yeah. So I talked to a bunch of folks, friends at the International Spy Museum, sort of getting a sense of what they feel. I mean, especially, the Spy Museum is a great example where in a town full of free Smithsonians, the fact that they're able to survive and thrive with a ticketed experience, not on the mall, but you have to hop on the metro and go over to LaFont Plaza.
Right.
But it's because of this compelling stuff that they have, where you cannot see the stuff that they have anywhere else, and so I also talked with my friend Chris Sparks, who owns Sherlocked Inn Escape Rooms in Frederick. He's got some really awesome themed escape rooms in downtown Frederick, and he was very kind to sit down with me, and we sort of talked about both artistic stuff and businessy stuff about like what he does and what he brings to Frederick. And his business is really successful, and he's bringing a themed experience, a themed interactive experience is what people are paying him for. And that'll be like an hour at a time, right? And he's got several different themed experiences, and that allows for sort of the repeatability. I also talked with my friend Mandy Gunther, who is a theater critic in the DMV, and it was great chatting with her about sort of the state of the art, literally, like what do you see going on, what do you not see going on, and also, I mean, definitely like. My friend Spencer Horseman does a show in Baltimore, closer to downtown,
Federal Hill.
The Baltimore people will know it's not downtown. It's not the Inner Harbor, but yeah, he's in Fed Hill. Illusions Magic Lounge is awesome. And he does, his show there. And so I, sort of that idea of, can I bring something like that to another area from the magic show perspective? But the hope is that if I just opened a Museum of the Impossible, meaning it closes at 6:00, right? Or if I just opened a magic theater that opens at 6:00, right? I would hope that either one of those projects would be at least above average successful. Like I would be able to keep the lights on, because I think there's enough interest in, a unique attraction, like going to see a bunch of cool stuff and making it as Instagram worthy as possible. Like
that's a good point.
A big part of my vision is I want to play with a bunch of my theatrical lighting toys and degree, and I can't do that when I'm doing a touring show because it's just too much stuff to set up, But I really want to when you walk into the space to have it feel like you're walking into Ollivander's wand shop from Harry Potter. Like it needs to have that kind of cinematic feel.
So it's not exclusively magic. Like you're not trying to create like the Museum of Magic,
right?
That's dud. I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, if anything, like the wink and the nod is that I want it to be what you wish Ripley's Believe It or Not was, right? And I say that with love for Ripley's Believe It or Not, but a lot, when you go to Ripley's Believe It or Not, a lot of it is like somebody spent a lot of time making that thing, like, wow, that is the Titanic built out of toothpicks. And I'm surprised that somebody did that, but it's not impossible. It's somebody spent more time than I would have cared to arrange all these jelly beans into a portrait of Marilyn Monroe,
It'd take me a lot of time to do that.
And I'm guessing that sometimes you're going to explain the impossibilities, sometimes you won't. I mean, I know we did a little bit of that at Willard and Wood.
That's true. The gallery of the impossible. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that. How much to lift the flap? One of the ideas that I have, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'll throw this out there as it may happen, it may not. I think it'd be really fun if I have like written plaques for most of the things, with a description of like where I acquired it or what's going on here. Right. And I think it'd be fun if some of the text was red and some of the text was black. And when you get to the end of the museum, I have a little thing letting you know that everything that was red is a lie.
Interesting.
And everything that's in black text was true. And I think that then people would be surprised to be like, wait, I thought that was a lie. But, and so if I'm looking for them, I mean, I'm not
really smart.
I'm not expecting to have it be a linear. I really want it to be like a children's museum, like that kind of exploratory thing. And so, if that is an opportunity for them, if I only have an experience that lasts an hour, but it turns out there were Easter eggs all the way through, well, now it's an hour and 20-minute experience, because now they're like, okay, wait, let's go back over there and let's see how much of that was true and how much of that wasn't.
Well, and
true.
people will want to bring their friends back to see it and watch them have that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're onto something with this. When I think, and I haven't done any research on escape rooms, but when I've done a few of them, and when I think about what makes them interesting, it's a group of people locking themselves in a room and frustrating themselves on trying to solve a puzzle. That's the draw. There's a theme, and there is a sense of competition or accomplishment if you're successful. And what you're describing here is something beyond just a space where there's interesting and unique items that you can look at, but there's actually something. There's like a I don't want to call it a through thread, but there's a draw, a path that. A subtext to your experience that is more than just walking through a store and window shopping, right? And I think drawing that from the escape room experience, because you mentioned your friend being so successful in Frederick, like how are you going to continue to draw in crowds repeatedly? I think that is a smart pursuit, because it clearly works for another type of business, not entirely unlike what you're trying to do in terms of a unique destination.
Right. Yeah. And I'll be curious to sort of see what, once, I mean, again, I don't want to get too far. It's like, I want to both plan for success and failure, right? I want to have my exit strategy, but I also want to plan for franchising this in every major city. Right. So somewhere in the middle there, the idea of like, I assume I'll continue to add exhibits even after it opens, right? Like sure. I'll probably slow down a little bit. But the idea that I would be just like, I mean, again, I'm sort of patterning a lot of this off of a science museum or a children's museum, where you'll go and you want to interact with these fun things, and they will have new stuff or temporary exhibits, but then they also have the old standbys and the classics that you enjoy. Things that I interacted with at the Maryland Science Center in the Inner Harbor, my daughter can now interact with, which is super cool. So I am really trying to come up with ways that the impossibilities can be interactive. There's a place that is on my list to visit. There is one in Philadelphia. They just opened one in DC. It's called the Museum of Illusion or Illusions. It might be plural. Anyway. And it is, I definitely, I want to do a field trip over there, research, but it's very much, optical illusions. So it is all just stuff that you look at. And in some cases you are interacting with the stuff in terms of like, it's, you've seen the rooms before where, it looks like a square room, but it's actually one part is really elongated. And so one friend goes down to one corner and one friend goes in the other corner, and you look like you're drastically different heights. So they have a room that's like that, and they have an upside down room, and they have, that is somewhat interactive, but like what I really
very photo worthy.
Yeah, right. Definitely, in the Instagram era for sure. Like that's smart. And, but I'm sure I'll have some of that stuff, but I also really want, like, one of my ideas is a lantern of truth. And there's this Diogenes thing that goes back years where there was wandering the earth with a lantern trying to find some man who would tell the truth. Anyway.
Still looking.
Yeah. I like the idea of, like, people can rearrange a bunch of, like, little, like, cards or pucks or something that have a truth or a lie on the back, and they, like, lay them out in a row, and then they move this lantern above it, and basically the lantern glows brighter when it's something that's true, or it glows dimmer when it's something that's, so the point is, you're not just, like, looking at a table with no legs and like, that's interesting, it looks like that table has no legs, right? But actually something where it's as hands-on as possible.
Well, I keep, as we're talking about this, I keep thinking about two things.
Yeah.
One is Grandfather's Mansion, and the other is Uranus.
Mm-hmm.
Grandfather's Mansion is at Silver Dollar City in Branson, and it has the upside down room and the tilted floor that type of a fun house kind of feel.
Sure.
Which is interesting, and you probably could do some of those things, right?
Yeah.
And then Uranus.
Yeah.
It's Uranus, Missouri.
Okay.
It's on Route 66. It's now the second most visited stop on Route 66.
Wow.
And it is Uranus, I kid you not, Uranus Fudge Factory.
Yes.
And that's the whole shtick, right? They just lean into it. It's brightly colored, and it is Uranus, Missouri. They have a fudge factory there, but the draw is they have a sideshow museum.
Oh, wow.
And so you go and you can buy trinkets and fudge and shirts and hats and all the things,
right.
But you can also visit for like $5 the sideshow museum. And you go in, and there's the two-headed calf, and there's the alligator man, and the guy, whatever, the petrified person from Africa or whatever.
Sure.
And then there's this fascinating lady that's there most of the days. Her name is Kat, and she's a sword swallower. And she does a little magic show, and she does, throughout the day. And her background, and the background of all of this is it's literally a traveling sideshow that has been in the carnivals for years.
Wow.
And they've found a way, and they've decided to make a permanent home for it.
Okay.
And so it's now connected to this whole Uranus, Missouri experience.
Well, there you go. Those are your Those are your gift shop ideas. Books on tuberculosis, a twisted card, a mismade dollar bill, and fudge from Uranus.
Yeah.
Fudge from Uranus.
I should be importing some fudge from Uranus and have it in the gift shop.
I have some in the car.
I bet you do. I'm glad it's not summer.
But I think you're onto something, though. There's absolutely.
I think I'm scared. But,
There's absolutely a market for this, though, for oddities, for interesting things,
right.
And especially and theirs doesn't even have the creative things you're talking about, where at the end you find out what's true and what isn't. They just they tell you the story about what it is, and that they suspend their disbelief and let you decide if you do or not.
Well, and I also, while this is well into this idea's inception, literally like less than a month ago, we went to Disney World, and there's a place in Disney Springs called Gideon's, and it is a bake shop. They sell cookies and cakes, but it looks straight out of Harry Potter, like Diagon Alley. Like the theming of the whole thing is just very, like, the inside is just floor to ceiling shelves with a bunch of books and weird oddities on it. And they sell, cookies and cakes, right? And so I decided I wanted to go pop my head in there, and I went over and I saw there were like a few people standing out in front, and there were some stanchions. And this is, it was fairly busy in Disney Springs. It was a Sunday night, and it's not a theme park, so you can just go and visit for free. So I walk over to the cast member there for Gideon's, and I said, "Is there a wait to get in?" And she said, yeah, it was 6 hours, but we're booked up now. I'm sorry." And I'm like, "For cookies? Like, what?" And I mean, I'm sure they're good cookies, but this is, and I've seen photos and videos of this place, and it is definitely just a cool wizardry, witch and wizard kind of feeling, to walk into this space and to be there to just buy overpriced cookies. I'm sure the cookies are good. I'm not, but
any cookie's good.
but I'm also sure that like and again, and it's Disney World, like
I have thoughts on cookies, but not
I
today.
bet. But so that alone was that was another point in the realm of like.
But part of them is location.
Yeah,
That's why
absolutely.
you have a 6-hour wait and then a booked up experience to buy a cookie, right? But I think the key there is, having not been there, I'm guessing it's an experience.
Yeah.
It's more than a cookie. It's an experience, and it's the same.
Why
thing.
else would you stay in the line?
It's fantastic.
When we went, we ended up, because now we're thinking cookies. We went to another cookie place in Disney Springs that, had no theme and had no line, and the cookies were fine.
Were delicious.
Yeah, like
Probably just as good.
Right. We got our fix that we wanted, but at the same time, it
was the same at Uranus.
I was going to say, how long would you wait in line for some fudge from Uranus?
at least a day.
There's a period of hours.
More than 6 hours?
Give or take.
I can't think of a better way to end an episode of the podcast of the Impossible.
You're welcome, audience.
Oh my God. Well, how would people, Peter, before we go, how would people participate and get involved in the early stages of the Museum of the Impossible if they were so inclined?
So all of my stuff, the joke was that just everything that I do is of the impossible. So I did go ahead and buy the website of theimpossible.com. So that's the umbrella of everything. But you can
It's of
the impossible. We've got the collector of the impossible, the podcast of the impossible, the workshop of the impossible, and now the museum of the impossible. So you can go to museumoftheimpossible.com, and we're crowdfunding this basically. So you sign up for a certain dollar amount a month that is good for you, and in return I will be sending you all sorts of digital rewards. So sometimes it's behind the scenes photos and videos. There's actually a tier on there where I will be be sharing all of the secrets of what I'm building. And that means at the lower tiers, you'll still be seeing me building things, but you're not going to get to know like how the illusion works, right? So I thought that would be fun to throw.
So if you don't want to know how the illusion works, you just don't join that level.
Yeah, or you don't have to watch those videos. I mean, I'm not gonna. I'll be happy to have you support at that level. Let's be clear.
Without the perk.
But even just literally something as simple as just photo. I mean, for $2 a month, I will be sending you photo and video and text updates of like, here's what I'm building right now, so you can still be a part of it.
And you could hear this conversation about Uranus before anyone else, I bet.
That's true. And you can be, you'll be at a party with friends and you'll be like, have you heard about the Fudge Factory in Uranus? And you will have had that intel a week before your friends that just listened to it.
Unless they've been there, they wouldn't know.
I know. Yeah, it's exciting.
Until the following week.
But yeah. So thank you guys so much. And that'll do it for this episode. But feel free to check out oftheimpossible.com for public shows and social media and all the museum project and all that stuff. I'm Peter Wood. Thanks.